channel this through, something Peter says that I think is really relevant, which is a lot of founders think about what it takes to get the second person in the company, right? The second founder or the second engineer, right? Or the third person, the fourth person. He says that's no longer the challenge. Like everybody wants to start a company, and so everybody can get together 2 or 3 or 4 people to start a company. He said the challenge is how do you get engineer number 20, right? Because engineer number 20, right, if they're in this ecosystem, right, they could go start their own company, right? And so how do you convince somebody to join your company as engineer number 20 with a tiny percentage of equity, right, and not being in charge as compared to starting their own company, getting all the equity and being in charge. Now, one of the things you do is you tell them they're going to have the same problem, but then they respond to you that you also have that problem, and then you sit there and stare at each other awkwardly. So that's the thing. So what you have right now is you have just a very, very large number of seed-funded companies that are experiments, and they're experiments on their ideas, but more importantly, they're experiments on who has the will and the drive and the horsepower, right, and the salesmanship and everything else that goes into recruiting, right? I think actually Sam Altman gave a talk the other day. He said if you could wave a magic wand, you would combine a lot of these companies together to get critical mass. But mergers between startups almost never happen for a variety of reasons. And so it really makes this sort of acute, this recruiting problem is a very acute problem. By the way, you think about it then as the temptation is to think about it as a recruiting problem, which is we have to get really good at recruiting. But it's not really that as much as it's like, okay, what about my company is going to be so spectacular and so special and so unusual and so distinct and differentiated that it's going to be able to easily hire engineer number 20 away from starting his or her own company. And so to me, it basically translates into basically you have to get better. Like you just have to get better. You have to be able to compete and you have to be able to win in this really brutal initial battle. The good news is the companies coming out of that sort of churning kind of sort of snake pit of competition. The companies that come out of that are really strong because they had to be to come through it. But it is tougher, and it is the other side of how easy it's become to start the company.